We're MechTech Studios, and we're working on a game called Heavy Gear Assault. And Heavy Gear Assault is going to be the next generation mech game built on Unreal Engine 4, and it's going to be the third Heavy Gear game of the franchise, and we're really excited to bring it to our community. Well, Heavy Gear Assault, like I said, is the next generation mech game, and the reason why we're saying that is because we're using technology to push the envelope of what is possible in a mech game. What is a mech game? So basically, Heavy Gear is a simulator. So basically, the players will be in the cockpit of the robots, which we call gears, and they will see what a pilot would see. So they would see heads-up display, they would see all the technical readouts of their sensors, they will be able to control throttle and move the torso independently of the legs. So it's really reminiscent of the old MechWarrior games in that regard. However, we're talking about gears, and these are 10-ton, 15 feet tall machines. So they are fast and nimble, very much like in Japanese anime that you might see. The closest thing you may be familiar with is Vodum Armored Troopers. And that's the kind of mobility that we want to put into here. And this becomes possible with the Unreal Engine 4 technology that we're using. And we would be able to also bring in a lot of particle effects, some incredible damage, destructibility in the terrain using NVIDIA's physics technology. We would actually have 2 layers on every gear. Every gear is actually going to be made by 2 layers. There's a skeletal layer, and then there's the exterior armor layer, and both can be destroyed. And weapons will have different effects on the internals, the externals, and everything will be customizable by the player. So if they want one armor plate that's different, change it. They want to change the hydraulic pressures in the actuators of the arms and legs to suit their needs, they can just tweak it. They can change the engines. They can change everything on their gear to suit their playstyle. As for weapons, is it going to be melee or long range? You decide. If you want to go up personal with a sword, 10-foot sword, go. If you want to shoot from long range and be a sniper, fine. If you want to have heavy artillery, you can do that too. You can have rockets and just saturate everything. And back to destructibility, with all that firepower, you can level the entire arena. We've produced a demo where a gear was on a bridge, and instead of shooting at the gear, they just brought the bridge down, quite simply. And this is the kind of destructibility that we want to have in our gameplay. So it leads to different strategies, it leads to different play styles, it also leads to a lot of excitement and a level of mayhem that's never been attempted in a game of this scale. It's going to be multiplayer, it could be team, it could be free-for-all. We're looking at about having up to 32 plus players on the same instance. So it could be a one-on-one match, depending on the rules of the match. It could be 2-on-2 tag teams, or it can be gigantic free-for-alls with dozens of players in the same instance. The competitive part, esport competitive part of the game is the multiplayer component, obviously, but Heavy Gear has a heritage of its military single-player games. Heavy Gear 1 was like that, Heavy Gear 2 is also like that, and the mech community has actually voiced their desire to have a single-player component. And while we were planning a single-player component on a much higher stretch goal, we found that we were able to do this in episodes. So what we offered during our campaign is to release the first episode with the release of the game. When the game actually releases and is finished, we can release the first episode, which would be a military-style single-player campaign where the player can enjoy the same level of customizability in the multiplayer game, but in a military setting, and also play through the military setting, choosing which faction they want to play as. And then later on, we would release new episodes, much like Valve did with Half-Life. Right now we're crowdfunding. We've been crowdfunding since the beginning of this project. We feel that we are appealing to our community of mech game players, as well as Heavy Gear fans from the past, and just giant robot fans in general. Yeah. We have support from around the world that came through. We started off with our own internal crowdfunding site back in February when we launched our website and we announced to the world that we're doing this project. We've had tremendous support at the beginning. We are continuing to crowdfund as well. And we've also launched a Kickstarter campaign, which for strategic reasons we pulled for ourselves. But we're excited to see that we found enough money to actually proceed continued development on this. But we were only able to find enough money to start something playable. So we definitely still need continued support to see this project come through. On our end, we're striving to be as transparent as possible and moving towards our community and getting them involved. Obviously, at this point, we're developing something that's playable that we hope to release to our supporters for feedback. Also, during our Kickstarter campaign, we were very, very open and we were very receptive to the feedback that we were getting from our crowd. And a lot of criticism was raised about our project, and we listened, and we also adjusted our strategy accordingly. So we feel we are trying to cater to whatever the fans' feedbacks are. And just to tell you a little bit about our community and our track record on listening to our community, MechTech was founded as a modding group. It wasn't a company. We were a modding group for the MechWarrior community, and thus our heritage of giant robot games. And MechTech, as a modding group, released the Mech Packs, which were the free release for MechWarrior 4 when Microsoft was starting to drop support for that game. And MechTech Studios then later came on, and we supported the community by opening servers, by making sure the game was punk-proof, was cheat-proof. We negotiated with Microsoft and masterminded the free release of MechWarrior 4, and we also supported the community for close to 10 years. So definitely community support is something very, very important to us, and when our fans and our followers speak, we listen. Well, our game engine is Unreal Engine 4, so they would just have to go to Epic Games and license it from Epic. What we are doing with it is pretty much groundbreaking because it's a whole new engine that nobody has really seen up close yet, and we feel very privileged by Epic Games and their support for this project, because really it's going to speed up development of our game in ways that traditionally can't be done with the current state of technologies right now. Initially, what we are going to do is we're going to release on PC because that's the resources we have. And when we sat down to design our game, we actually had console in mind as well. And there will also be a mobile component on the release. And the mobile component is because Heavy Gear is going to be a sports-oriented multiplayer mech game. We wanted to create the sports ambience around it, and we want players to be able to stream their matches to their friends over mobile devices wherever they are. So your friends could be watching you duel out in a North American tournament or a world tournament or a regional tournament, and you can be streaming your games live on your own profile in-game and to your friends who are watching as spectators. And spectators can also participate actively through their mobile devices and also their PC client, obviously. But what they can do also actively through the mobile platform as well as the PC platform is they can speculate on your matches with their own in-game money. They can upvote particular performances, downvote performances. If there's a player that they find particularly distasteful, they can put a bounty on him in-game, and whoever takes him out first will gain that bounty. So there's many ways that players can actively participate, much like the Roman gladiator arenas where people can put their thumbs up or thumbs down and actually participate in what goes on. Right now, because of our funding situation, we did not get complete funding, so it's hard to have a TBA at this point. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get something playable out the door with the money we've already raised. And from there, perhaps negotiate with other partners or even the community itself to see if there's enough support in our community to actually finish the project. What we're planning to do is to distribute it ourselves through our client, and as well as on Steam and other distribution platforms. Well, Heavy Gear, well, it's a Canadian franchise made by an independent Canadian team, and we're just doing it for our community, so please support us, and we'll see you in the arena.
Thank you.
From what we understand, Heavy Gear 2 was the number one game. Heavy Gear 2 by Activision, when that came out back in '99, was actually the number one game in Japan for close to 2 months.